Hi, everybody. I'm Ross Porter. Sports does not always have a fairy tale ending. My guest today is Rick Magnante. For the last 17 seasons, Rick has been a minor league baseball manager, 3 years with the Detroit Tiger organization, 13 with the Oakland A's, and this past season with the Appalachian League. He has now managed nearly 1,600 games in his fine career. 3 years ago, Rick was named the Manager of the Year in the California League when he was at Stockton. Until last year, 2020, the Appalachian League had been a minor league for 109 seasons. This year, though, the league converted to become a collegiate summer baseball league and become a part of Major League Baseball's project development pipeline. That's a collaboration between Major League Baseball and USA Baseball. Rick's had an experience in the last few days that I wanted you to hear about. Rick, it's nice to see you again.
Thanks, Ross. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, let's just start out this way. Give me the dates and some of the background when this all started for you.
Okay, well, the Appalachian League began this year. It's a 54-game season. As you mentioned earlier, amateur players run and directed by Major League Baseball and USA Baseball. And toward the end of the year, they had set up the All-Star game that was going to be on July 26th and 27th. There's two divisions in the league. The league was going to be played in, the All-Star game was going to be played in Pulaski. All the kids from our division, which is 5 teams, were to meet in Johnson City, get on a bus and bus to Pulaski for the event. Prior to getting on the bus and going to Pulaski, they all did a rapid test for COVID. All were negative. They got on the bus. They made the trek, they played the game, and upon returning, one of the players on Elizabethton tested positive for COVID. I met with my players that day and told them about the situation. Up until that time, there really hadn't been any COVID incidences to my knowledge. But I knew that with the surge and the Delta variant and being in a part of the country where less than 50% of the populace was vaccinated, and I would say probably no more than 50% of my team was vaccinated, I was concerned for the players, myself, and our staff. So I let the players know that, if there was concerns personally with them or at home, in view of the fact that there were only 8 or 10 games left in the season, that if they felt unsafe and wanted to go home, they certainly could do that, and there would be no recrimination on my part or on the league's, to the best of my knowledge. No one left, and that Sunday, we were slated to play a 5:30 single game, 7 innings on Sundays in Greenville. When we arrived in Greenville, one of my players came to my office and said, "Hey, Skip, a player on Greenville has tested positive for COVID." He just put it on his go-to message or whatever. He was an all-star participant as well. And I was concerned. So I put in a call to Major League Baseball and to USA Baseball and sat and waited for a return call. My baseball ops guy said that Greenville was prepared to play the game and that they had contact traced one player on their team because of the outbreak to the other player and found that that player tested negative. I was concerned because I didn't know if that contact tracing was effective. I don't know if the person that should have been contact traced was, because to my knowledge, the person they contact traced was not the infected player's roommate. So
let me interrupt you just 1 second. You told me that they were all together in a dormitory. Is that what happened?
Well, when they went on the All-Star game, I'm sure they were all in a hotel together. Okay, but I'll get to the dormitory situation as we move forward.
All right.
So I was concerned for the reasons I told you. And my baseball ops director said that Greenville wanted to play the game, and their plan was to test the following day, which was Monday. And I said, that's not acceptable to me. If they can rapid test before the game, then I'm happy to look at the results and make a determination as to whether we'll play or not. But I said, even if they were all to test negative, I said, that doesn't indicate that they can't still shed the virus and they aren't contagious. It's asymptomatic. So I had kind of made a decision in my mind based on what my staff was telling me and what the players were showing as concern, that they were cautious, they were fearful, they didn't want to play. I received a phone call back from David Perkins, who is one of the executives at Boyd Sports, who owns 4 of the teams in the Appalachian League. And he asked if he could patch in a phone call from John D'Angelo from Major League Baseball. I said, fine. So John D'Angelo got on the phone, and they both wanted to know what my concern was. And I expressed my concern to them just as I've told you. Based on where we were in the country, based on the surge, the variant, the concern of my players and my staff, I felt that it would be unsafe for my team to play tonight based on what they wanted to do. They basically told me that I didn't know who I was talking to, which led me to kind of go, I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I'm pretty convicted here. I did not mandate this to my players. I brought my players together. I told them the situation, explained it to my staff, and to almost a man, everybody was not happy about having to play. I told him, Major League Baseball, I said, these are amateur players. They're not professionals. They have no union to protect them. There are no financial considerations that they have to weigh in making this decision. Someone has to be the adult in the room. It should be me. I'm the manager of the team. I'm taking their safety and their health as a responsibility of mine, and I'm going to put my team on the bus, and we're going to drive back to Johnson City, which is about a 50-minute drive. D'Angelo told me that he would be calling me back. I knew he was irritated, and I knew somebody had to flex their muscles, and it was probably going to be him. I had already drawn the line in the sand. I was committed, and I was prepared for whatever the consequences might be. So we traveled back to Johnson City. And when we arrived, I was greeted by the general manager of the Johnson City Doughboys. She is also an employee of Boyd Sports, because Boyd owns Johnson City, Elizabeth, and Greenville, and Bristol. They own those 4 teams in our division. She said, may I talk to you for a moment? I said, sure. She came into the office. We closed the door. She says, I just got a call from Major League Baseball from John D'Angelo, and he wanted me to tell you that you're fired. And I went, okay. I said, it's kind of awkward for you. You don't work for Major League Baseball. You don't work for USA Baseball. Major League Baseball is asking you to carry the water for them and tell me that I'm terminated, and they don't have the intestinal fortitude or whatever vernacular you might want to use to call me directly and tell me that. After they expressed to me, they would be calling me back. So she said to me then, she says, you're not a violent person, are you? And I said, well, I'm opinionated, I'm outspoken, but I have no history of violence in my lifetime that could be tracked to anything other than maybe a grammar school scrape or something like that. But no. She says, because there's 2 black and whites out in the parking lot, two police cars. And part of MLB's security, I guess, when they terminate a person, either prematurely or whatever, is to make sure that that employee doesn't do any damage to the premises or maybe become violent or take property that's not theirs. I had to chuckle. And so she was nice enough after a reprieve there for a moment to say, I'm going to let them know that there's no threat of violence here or a problem with you, and they can go. But I kind of look at it and go, they were ready to escort me out of Johnson City with a police escort because I wasn't going to let my boys go into a situation where their lives or their health could be at risk. So I went into the clubhouse and I met with the team, And I told them that I'd been terminated. And I would say to a man in unison, and it gives me goosebumps when I recount it, they said, Skip, if you're gone, we're gone. If you're not the manager, we're not playing. And I appreciated their support and their compassion and their willingness to stand for what I believe was right as well as what they thought was right. But I told them at the time, I said, look, this is your future. I know you stand behind me. I know we stand together, but you may have to make a decision, that maybe compromises maybe what your values are. So I left the room, and I guess the general manager in Johnson City and John D'Angelo got back on the phone again, and she told him that there was a problem. And he said, what's the problem? And she said, well, the players are going to defect. If the manager's terminated, they're not going to play. So he told her to put him on speakerphone. She was in the clubhouse. She had heard my talk to the players prior to that. And he told the players under no uncertain terms, I'm paraphrasing because I was not there, that if they left, they would never be invited back to play in the Appalachian League again. And any staff members who left would never be invited back to participate in anything that Major League Baseball would conduct or organize. So when I heard that, I went back and I told the players, you need to do what you need to do. Your futures are at stake here. In my humble opinion, they're extorting you. They're blackmailing you. They're threatening your baseball careers. But as I told D'Angelo, you picked the wrong guy at the wrong time because my future's in the rearview mirror. There's no consequences for me, but the players have consequences, as does the staff. And I suggested to my staff that they stay, both two young coaches, pardon me, who just getting their career on the ground. How bad would it be when their resumes went out and they called Major League Baseball and said, what happened in Johnson City in 2021? They say that you quit, that you wouldn't continue the season. I don't think they have to defend themselves in that way. So the coaches stayed and they finished out the season. I believe 10 or 12 players left. 6 or 7, I think, remained. So they then had to bring in players from outside the league, players that didn't meet the criteria of this elite league that was supposed to be the best freshman and sophomore non-draft eligible players in the country. And they had to water down the product so that they could complete the season. Subsequently, 4 more players in Elizabethton tested positive, 1 inconclusive. My concern about the Elizabethton team, as you mentioned earlier, was that because Elizabethton's only 15 minutes from Johnson City, Elizabethton's players and Johnson City's players share the same dorm. So, and the fact that we were going to play Elizabethton in Greenville the last 7 games of the season, we're living with a team that's infected and we're going to play a team that's infected. I didn't think that was a good idea. So I was concerned on that level as well, the proximity that we shared with Elizabethton. Subsequently, 15 players on the Bristol team, which is in our division, and 5 staff members have since tested positively for the COVID.
Oh.
So there is an exponential reality to what happened. I'm not saying I'm at the front of the charge, but as timing worked out, it seems the fact that we didn't take the field probably stood in our favor as the season went on to maybe catching and contracting and spreading the virus. So that's pretty much my story. To date, I have not received any kind of formal notification, be it a phone call, an email, a text, or something via the post from USA Baseball telling me that I am no longer employed.
Couple of questions for you, Rick. What is John D'Angelo's title with Major League Baseball?
So he's in a director position, Ross. I didn't really look it up. He's somewhere in operations of sorts. But I think that was the second opportunity I had to talk to him. I talked to him earlier in the year on another Zoom call, with another issue that's equally as grave and serious and poorly handled as this last one for me. But that's another story.
You said the players were warned you won't play again in the Appalachian League. Was the warning you won't play again in professional baseball?
No, I did not hear that. I did not hear that. But, you know, what is professional baseball in America? It's MLB. And more so now than ever, because they control all the minor leagues and they control all these amateur leagues. So they're in a position as a trust exempt entity that no one else shares that particular position with in American business, as someone who there's no due process. The law doesn't apply to them. They can do and enact anything that they want. And so litigation would be difficult. But nonetheless, those words that you'll never play Major League Baseball, though, to my knowledge, were not threatened at the players. Just no longer would they be able to participate in the Appalachian League as they move forward with their amateur careers.
You managed the Johnson City Doughboys.
Yeah.
Will the management of Johnson City pay you for those remaining games after you were fired?
Well, I'm not employed by the Johnson City Doughboys. That'd be Boyd Sports. They own the franchise, but I'm employed directly by MLB and USA Baseball. So that's who I answer to.
Will you get paid?
Well, I've gotten 4 installments and I'm waiting for the 5th. I have every assurance that I will. I would be surprised if I didn't. That would create more problems and more bad press. But yeah, I'm hoping I'll get paid, yes.
Do you have a legal recourse?
I'm looking into that right now, seeing what my options are, and investigating that and seeing where that might go as well.
To summarize, you think you were fired while trying to protect your players from COVID-19, and you believe you deserve the right to a fair hearing, to a duty to act fairly. Would that be appropriate?
Yes, that would be appropriate. That would definitely be appropriate. But that's why I believe that I was summarily dismissed. I think that was exactly it. I was insubordinate. I was not going to follow the directions. I was not going to follow what I felt were inadequate and unsafe protocols. And I wasn't going to subject myself, my staff, my team, or the people they may come in contact with after the season. It's also my understanding, as something here at the end, that the Johnson City team was not tested at the end of the season before they left to go home. So I would imagine if the Johnson City team was not rapid tested for COVID before they left, that probably the rest of the teams in the Appalachian League were not tested either. So I don't know that for sure, but I know that the Johnson City Doughboys were not tested before they got on a plane or got in their cars and drove home.
Rick Magnante, thanks for joining us. I wish you great success in your future endeavors.
Thanks, Ross. I appreciate the voice.